Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. It's midsummer and I've had a friend come and visit me, somebody who's been here before to my house, and if you watched my videos in the past, you know him well. His name is Rank Carcass. He made the trip from Edmonton yesterday, and mostly what we were planning on doing is going to my cabin and playing around in the water, going for boat rides and campfires and doing all that kind of stuff. But the weather outside is just terrible right now, and it's supposed to clear up by Sunday. So we thought we'd just I had this game set up, this 1914 game, Global War. We thought we'd take a stab at it, but because we only have a couple of days, we don't have any designs of getting through the whole thing. We just want to check it out, like play around with the mechanics and make some notes. If we can suggest anything that we maybe should be changed or something, then we're going to do that. But we're going to pare the game down a bit too. Like, we're not going to use all of the game mechanics in the game. For instance, the technology. There's lots of technology in this game, and so one way to make it easier, because we're both coming at this, like I've only played it once for a couple of rounds down in Tulsa, and he's never even seen the game before. So we'll get rid of the technology. That'll make it a little easier on us. A couple of things that are on the technology chart are tanks and stormtroopers. So we're just going to say, okay, at a certain date, you can build tanks or stormtroopers. But one of the things that is on here that wasn't on here before are these camels. So we're gonna throw 4 or 5 camels down on the board to begin with, because there wasn't any in the opening setup. This was kind of a thing that Doug thought about just before we did our play testing, and so camels weren't a part of the game. But they're going to be a part of this game, and moving forward, I believe they'll be in this game. So what they're going to be is like cavalry, but in desert, right? So we're just going to decide what we're going to do with them. Like, we'll make them probably first strike. They're the only ones that can go through the impassable desert there. So basically, you'd be able to go from up here, through the desert down here, right? Down to southern Africa without having to worry about it. Like, normally you'd have to go around here. Sorry, I was just looking. And normally you would have to go around the desert with your units to get down here. But the camels will be able to go straight across from there. And I think making them first strike, that'd be kind of cool too. And another thing we're going to do is, I just spoke to Doug on the phone the other day, and I don't have them on me, but he's going to send the winner of the contest, which we're holding, some 2 packs of camels. Here, let me just show you what they look like. Now, mine are painted there, you see that. You can do whatever you want if you win this prize. You can paint them or not paint them, that's up to you. So this is what they'll look like here, unpainted. Let me just throw that down there so you can see it. So that's what they normally look like. They're actually pretty cool. But he's gonna send you 2 of those and a set of World War I coasters, like the coaster set. He just started selling them on his site now. But if you've ever ordered anything from Historical Board Gaming, then you get a free coaster, right, with each one. So I wish I had some here now. He's going to send me a bunch of them, but I don't have it here right now. But he's going to send, the prize will be 2 packs of these camels, and that's enough. Like, this guy I didn't even paint, so 2 packs is enough to play this whole game, right? And a set of coasters, like the full set. All the nations that you need that are in this game, you will get the coasters for everybody. So that's going to be a cool prize. And what you'll have to do is comment on this video, say that you want to win the prize or something. Yeah, just say that you want to win the prize. You can comment on the game that's going on and everything. But some people might not want to win the prize. So if that's the case, then just don't say anything. You could just comment on the game if you want. But if you want to win the prize, then just say so, okay? So anyway, we're going to get started here. It's actually later in the day now, because we've been going through the rules and everything. There's lots to go through. I spent a lot of time since I got home from Tulsa putting this game together once I had the map, and I haven't played it yet. except for those few turns in Tulsa, because I wanted to paint all the units and everything. There's one thing that is supposed to be in this game, and that's armored cars. I didn't paint any armored cars. I don't know why, but I overlooked that. But so I've got trucks, and they're all painted. There isn't supposed to be trucks in this game. I was going to try to find a way to put trucks into this game for supply purposes, but since we're just going to try to make this easy to play for us today, we're going to use those trucks as armored cars, and we're not going to create that supply role in this game. That'll be for future. Now this game, you see the map, it's pretty rudimentary right now. Excuse me. It is not nearly ready to go, put it that way. So this map is going to change a lot by the time that this game gets released, and it'll be hopefully next year by the time this game comes out. I'm guessing like fall or winter next year in 2020, but I don't know. But you know, the focus right now is to get version 3 of 1936 to 45 out in 2025, and then this game is scheduled to be after that game. There might be a Pacific game in between there that might get released before this game as well, but they're hoping to get this game out by next year. Some of the things that are going to be different for sure, even in our game, Italy doesn't start on anybody's side. So there's a way to influence Italy, and it's weighted towards the Allies, the British and the French, but it's not impossible for that to go the way of the Entente either, or sorry, the Central Powers. The Central Powers might very well get Italy in this game, and over here Japan, Britain basically makes a choice whether they want China, like China at the start of the game, requests to be a part of the Allies, and so the British can make a choice whether to accept them or not. If they don't accept them, then Japan becomes part of the Allies, and so you know, like that'll be something that gets decided early in the game. Then the Italian question will get decided after that. The Americans don't enter the war until late, and the rules that they have for them are very complicated. So we'll look at simplifying those just for this game, because like I said, we don't have a week to play it, right? We want to get out to the lake and do some boating while it's supposed to be really hot and sunny here in a couple of days from now. And he's got to go home. Like he's only got 5 days here, I think. So a couple days in here and a few days at the lake, and that'll be it. Anyway, I'm just going to cut this off now because I don't have much to say about it. I don't know how much I'm going to film. I know I'll film a little bit, you know, like, but I'm not going to film every turn because we're going to be busy trying to figure out how to play this game. So stay tuned and I'll get back to you. Okay, so not much has happened. We're at the end of the first turn. Some things have happened, but really it's been mostly paring down the game. Like a lot of discussion about what do we do now? What do we do now? And you know what I mean, like when you're learning how to play a game, you're scanning the rules and looking for something, and we're trying to simplify the game as well. So then we'll say, okay, what are we going to do with that then? You know, like, anyway, like here's the units and what they do. There's been 2 random events. At the beginning of every turn, you roll for a random event, and there's all kinds of different random events, and they're all different depending on which year. So the first one, the British got this Assur place, and the second one is the Americans get to extend war credit to the Axis powers. And we're just writing things down that we want to remember, like the turn order. So that's quickly, and their starting incomes, quick to remember. Trench warfare. Okay, so let's just see what we got here. So the only things that really happened, the only things that changed, the British took the Japanese. They had a choice to let the Chinese join or to take the Japanese, and they decided the Japanese were going to be on their side. Oh, I forgot to take Japan's turn. Okay, no problem. They're not going to do much anyway. They're just going to collect $6 and do something minor, I think. Actually, they might attack that German down there. But I guess probably the biggest thing that happened, the Germans at the beginning of the game, on their first turn, they can take 5 units in their home country there. And let me just show you their home country. Like the 36 game, this is their home country here, the light gray. Actually, yeah, I guess the dark gray too. But they can take 5 units from there and put them in one territory. So what they did was they took a bunch of units from over here, they put everything over here, and then they were able to take this out on the French, and then they were able to hold it because if you have 6 or more infantry class units, not including cavalry, then that can constitute a trench. And so that's you can only have combat for 1 round when there's a trench. So I couldn't get him back. In fact, I think he took more units off than I did when I attacked him there. So that was a good move by him. I guess the other major thing was that the French took out the Austro-Hungarian Navy here. Hang on a second. I need to adjust my camera there. But there was the Austrian Navy in here, and there was a German torpedo boat destroyer as well. And so this French Navy came in and took those guys out. Other than that, just really minor skirmishes. I'll just show you up at the other end of the board there. The Germans, they've got a lot of their naval units in the same spot, so we're just using this counter here, right here, and that's all these ships right here. So he came in. He's got 1 damaged dreadnought. He came in and took out the Russian Navy, and then these guys, and then he landed on these 2 places right here. So the Russians came back and took those 2 places, but he took out these 2 places, and I don't think much else happened. The French just tried to get their territory back and they couldn't. The Austrians tried to attack the Russians down in Serbia down here, and they ended up losing a unit, and they couldn't get a unit. And in a mountain territory, you can only do 1 round of combat, just like if you're attacking an entrenched territory. So just in 1 round, I think he lost 1 unit and I didn't lose any for the Russians. So like I said, not much happening. It's mostly just reading the instructions and moving your units around. Like all of the British units in India, I've moved them along the coast here because I don't see anybody coming up from behind me or anything. The only thing that could possibly happen is a naval assault or like an amphibious assault. He had a couple of boats here and he moved them down to here. He figured he'd go around South America, like come around this way down over there, South America, because he's got a lot more British and Japanese boats in the water in the Pacific. So he thought, I'll try to save these, try to get around them, maybe go to Africa where he's got some units, so that he could actually use those boats instead of just watching them die. Anyway, that's about all I got right now. Be back later. Okay, so we are into 1915 now, and Ray Carcass is gonna assault Paris, I believe. Here, you're gonna take him, aren't you?
I'm gonna try, yeah.
Well, he's not gonna get him, but he's gonna try, yeah. But yeah, like all he did was went straight for him with everything he could, and he had managed to bust through there pretty easily. I don't even think the rolling was really off or anything. It was just it just seems to be the thing to do with
double
Germany.
the numbers.
Germany, they're probably going to need at some point in time to put some stuff over with the Russians there. But I think he did the right thing in this game. The way it sits right now is by just going straight for Paris, because I could have done a little bit better. I could have brought the British in a little quicker, but I didn't. I was a turn late getting in there, so that kind of hurt me there. But in Russia, they're just not making enough money because everybody, like the Germans managed to influence Afghanistan over here, so that meant that guy could go in up there, and the Ottomans, they're coming in and they're starting to take Russian money out. So the Russian money is right down. It's down to $11 here. And if they had more money, they could be more of a threat to the Germans. But it looks like Germans going to tee off on them this turn anyway, which is good. I got a chance to turn the game. Don't know if I will or not, but at least it's a chance for me to do that. If he doesn't roll well and I do, then that's a way for me to break into Europe on my turn. We'll see though. He's still got his navy sitting there, a big navy, represented by this marker right here. we didn't know what else to use, so we're using that marker. The Navy, you can see, is sitting over on that task force card over there.
You don't usually have a large.
It's about the same
Navy
size as the British Navy right here. So, the Central Powers Navy in the Mediterranean, they've only got one boat left right here. That's it. The French managed to take out all of the Austrian boats and all but one of the Ottoman Empire's boats. But now that the Ottomans are in there, there's lots of room for them to expand because all this stuff over here has just got one or two things on it. So they can actually add to their income pretty quickly if the French and British aren't able to get over there and slow them down. So we'll have to see what happens there. Looks like I might have to bring some guys over from India or something. We'll see. Down in the Africa here, not much has changed. The Germans haven't done anything, but the British have taken one from the Germans and the French have taken one from the Germans. That's about all that's happened down here. That is this camel here. He came from, they can cross the desert. So a camel did something finally. Yay!
Yes.
Yeah, and
well, you attacked me with a camel over here.
Japan is starting to build up now over here. About the only thing they can do now, because the Germans have vacated the Pacific, they're only allowed to do so much. They can't just, pile up a transport and whip over there and take out Berlin or anything. Like, they're limited in what they can do. So one of the things they can do is attack China. And so they're going to wait though. Like, they're going to build up and build up and build up. They actually have more income than most of the people in this game.
They make more than Russia, Ottomans, Hungary, the U.S. right now.
Yeah, Italy. They make more than everybody except for France and Britain and Germany. So they're just going to build up and build up and build up and build up, and then they're just going to go in there and kick China in the nuts as hard as they can. So that'll be easy for them. And that's about it. There's not much else going on in the game. What was that last thing that happened? Did you write it down? Oh yeah, right here. Apparently there was some kind of revolt, the random event. Yeah, there was a revolt in here, Hejaz. They were revolting against the British, and I don't know how, because I wasn't even there.
No, and I didn't have it either, so it was a neutral that turned into mine somehow.
Yeah, so you got that for free.
Yeah.
The bastard.
I'm not going to complain.
Anyway, that's the way it looks here on the third turn. Are we? No, we're going to the third turn. That's right.
Yeah, starting the third.
We'll be back. All right then. So, where are we? We are in summer of 1915, which is the fourth turn of the game. Thought I'd give you a look from this side of the board, a little closer over to the middle of Europe. As you might imagine, most of this game is played in Europe, the Mediterranean. The Middle East is in it now because the Ottoman Empire, a bit of Africa, and very little in Asia. Almost nothing in Asia, really. But anyway, so the French and the British both ganged up on the Germans right here. And so the British took them down a bit, and then the French were able to come in and mop them up. Now, the Germans have the numbers against the capital, Paris here, but I'm entrenched there because I have more than, or at least 6. I have 7 infantry there. So the problem is that he only gets 1 round to attack me, right? And attacking a city, of course, and attacking a trench, it's just it's really difficult. Well, that's one of the things that we're finding in this is attacking entrenchments is really difficult, and as it should be, right? Like this is how they simulate being bogged down in this game. But the other thing that we're finding is almost impossible is amphibious assaults, because there's no Marines in this game. So you're going to take double casualties regardless, right? And if you're going against, like he had a bunch of artillery here, then, I had 4 infantry there. All you need is 2 artillery hits and the fight's over before the infantry even gets to fight, right? So it's really not... I'm thinking that maybe that rule could be tweaked a little bit, the amphibious assaults, somehow to enable that to actually happen. Um, Otherwise transports are almost useless in the game unless you're dropping them off where there's nobody or there's only a militia or something, or maybe one infantry. But it's really difficult to amphibiously assault a territory that has a couple of things in it, especially if they got artillery with the first strike. Over here, the line's holding pretty well over here. There's not much getting past one way or the other. These two are entrenched here, and I'm guessing that Germany will have a trench line here by the end of this turn. It's Germany's turn right now. Ray Carcass is just on the phone right now, and then he's going to come back in here and he'll take his turn, and then it'll be Burton's turn, and off we'll go for another round, right? The random event that happened at the start of this turn was some kind of uprising against the British and the Italians. So the Ottoman Empire got to put a dude here and here, and because they were empty, he got to take them over. And then the very next thing that we did was, actually it would have been simultaneous because they both happened at the start of the turn. We rolled and Italy became part of the Allies, so the British, the French, the Italians, and the Americans now, and I guess the Japanese are on their side as well, and the Russians. The Russians aren't there for long though. Like there's going to be a revolution there, and the Russians are going to be wiped out. So then that's when these guys can start concentrating more on moving to the west instead of worrying about the east like they are right now. If they were to relax in the east, then like you see these guys here just poke through. The Germans should be able to close that gap, but they got to keep closing it. You know what I mean? Like the Russians are doing just enough to keep these guys off balance over here, to keep their attention so that they can't concentrate everything in the west now. One of the positives for the Austrians is that with Italy joining the game now, then at least they've got somebody they can attack, because they weren't getting through the Russians, right? Basically all they could do with the meager income that they have is roll for, like they managed to roll this one, just rolling to try to influence, and also just holding the line against the Russians. But at least now they can attack the Italians. When looking for modifiers, they tried to, if they had more than 8 units in, I believe it's this territory here, then they would have had a +2 for their side. But that didn't happen, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because the French rolled an 11. It's the French that roll the dice for that. So the other big thing that's happened, let's just, since the last time I made a video, actually the first thing that happened after we stopped, I showed you what happened in France there. But before that, he rolled and he managed to get Spain here. So that was a big plus for him. Getting Spain and getting all the units that were in there, and there was a dreadnought there as well. So he brought the dreadnought down over here, and he had brought, remember earlier in the game he had some boats in the Pacific. He'd gotten them to here, and so he brought them over. Plus he managed to influence Argentina. So he got 2 infantry there and a couple more boats there. So all of a sudden he's got himself a small navy over here, with the boats he got here, with the dreadnought that he got from Spain, and the ones that he brought from the Pacific. But I think that I've showed you just about everything. I think these, then France, yeah. France was able to influence the Netherlands, which is a big deal because all of these things are from the Netherlands, right? So that was a big boost to the French income right here. And when you look around, I mean, there's nobody that's going to challenge them for that, right? The nearest boats are those German ones that I showed you way over there. And, they're just not really in a position or the strength to come over here and fight these guys, right? Like these guys are a lot closer to come down and stop them, even if they thought about it. But Ryan Carcass, he's a wily veteran. We'll see what he has up his sleeve here.
I have no idea what I'm going to do right
He's
now.
a scurvy dog.
I'm actually on the verge of doing this.
Yeah, okay.
Fleet battle.
Oh, yeah. He's thinking he's going to bring his fleet against my fleet.
We're even in hits. I just need to get rid of some of those transports. It's the only thing that's going to save me.
Yeah. I think it's still 3 rounds, isn't it? We'll look from the Navy, but I think it's still only 3
Everything
rounds.
seems to be 3 rounds, unless it's mountains or entrenched. Or
Yeah. Alrighty, so that's where we are here in the summer of 1915, and we'll be back. Alright, so we are in the fall of 1915. That's why I look so old. And as you can see, the incomes are pretty low in this game. So like you're not going to buy a lot of stuff, right? So that's one of the reasons I'm not too excited about at this point. But I mean, the rules are very, very early, right? Like they're going to change for sure, but I don't know how they're going to change. But one of the things I don't like too much is that there's 18 techs for this game. Let me just put this down so you can see what's going on. 18 tech advances for this game, in which you have to roll. You know, kind of like you do this one. This is the World War II one up here, right? So it's the same. It's the same principle for this game, and so there's 18 of them, and I don't really like that because you don't get a lot of money in this game anyway. Like there should be some tech advances for sure. You know, maybe like chemical weapons and things like that. There's a few things that you could put in there, but I wouldn't put more than 10 or 12 for this game because let's face it, there really wasn't a lot of tech back in World War I, right? Like one of the things that are in there is tanks. With some of the countries, they're only getting $10 and stuff. Like I don't see them wanting to spend money on rolling dice instead of buying infantry or artillery or something, right? Like if they do that, then you know, sure they'll get some nice tech, but they'll also be out of the game. And so for things like tanks, armor, I would prefer to just do what we're doing in this game. Like we're not doing any tech in this game because we're trying to simplify it for one thing. But what we're doing in this game for tanks, because we want them in the game, is I looked online, looked it up, and the British were the first ones to put tanks on the battlefield. They started, like they had one developed early in 1915, and then I think in August of 1915 they shipped it over to France and they had it ready, and then in September of 1915 it was on the battlefield. And so being sorry, I just had to think about that. It's 16. So what we're going to do is on the next turn, I guess. Yeah, it's 1916, sorry. On the next turn, I'm going to, what we're going to do is the British will be allowed to start buying tanks in the spring, in the spring of 1916. And everybody else can start buying them in the fall of 1916. Because like there's 3 turns, 3 turns to a year. So they're only 4 months long. There's precedent for that too. In the 36 version, Germany gets tanks 6 months before, or maybe a year before everybody else. And so it's kind of like that, where, you know, like the weapon showed up on the battlefield at this date, so why not just put it in at that date, right? I think that's a lot simpler and a lot better for all the other people in the game that hardly make any money, that, you know, like maybe Italy wants to buy 1 tank, or the Ottoman Empire or the Austria-Hungarians. Like they just don't get much money, and so they're not going to get any cool units like that if they have to develop them. In fact, they're not going to get any development done. Really, just maybe 3 or 4 nations in this game will develop weapons, and that's it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's just not enough. I love having the full range of units that are in your box. I love being able to put them on the board, and so I just like to find a different way to do that. So what happened in the last turn? Yeah, Germany was down here, like they'd taken over this spot, and it looked like they were down there pretty heavy. So I brought everybody down from Paris and took that out. Um, Also, I don't know if I showed you before. Oh yeah, you saw that the Netherlands turned French, I think. Like not only the Netherlands there, but all the Netherlands over here turned French, and so that was a big boost for the French. It's kind of been a game changer. And when the last time I spoke to you, we were going to have a big battle over the boats in here, and we did. It was the first time we used the battle board, and we we only had a World War II battlefield, our battle board, so we just put them where the numbers were, that they were supposed to be at, and it came down to a damaged dreadnought versus a damaged dreadnought, and they both hit each other. So the result of that was that 3 British transports and 1 French transport were saved, and all the other boats were wasted. And then over here, you remember he had a Navy down here, right? So he came up and he took out the Navy that I had here. I think he took out 3 or 4 ships that I had, and he didn't lose any. He just damaged a dreadnought, and that's the only capital ship in this game at this point. And then the French came out and they whittled them down to where they only had a dreadnought left. And then the Italians came down. The Italians came out on the side of the Allies there. It wasn't really close. Like, it's really weighted towards the Allies where the Italians are going to go. So the first thing they did in this game, they came out with these units here, and they actually hit with the sub. And the sub is first strike, so that dreadnought didn't even get a shot back. So that was cool. One of the things that has been a boost for these guys, we had our first bona fide camel fight in here, where there was 2 camels going against each other, the British one and the Ottoman Empire camel. Anyway, he won, and you can see the units that he's got left here. He had 1 or 2 units more than me in here to begin with. I was just so concentrated on saving Paris over there that I haven't put as much units down in Africa as I would have liked. So he's taken out the Suez Canal, and what happens with that in this game is that it's a penalty of 5 IPP to the British. So when I collect money next time as the British, if I don't get that back, then I'm going to have to take 5 IPP less for not owning the Suez Canal. It's either if it's blockaded on either side or if you lose it. And at this point, I've lost it. So I will definitely be sailing down there or doing whatever I can, getting the rest of the Allies to help out, trying to get that back. The Russians are, for the amount of money they've been getting this game, which isn't much, they only start with 15. They've actually been holding their own. Like the line has stayed here the whole time. Like these guys, this is the furthest they've gotten in the game. Of course, Germany has been concentrating on Paris on the Western Front, but Austria, like, they didn't have anything else to do because the Italians weren't in the game. But at the same time, they only start with 10 IPP as an income, and they've been trying to influence, like every rule they've done for Romania to try to influence them, they've missed. So what can you do, right? They've tried Greece, they've tried Romania, and they just can't seem to get it. The random event that we just rolled for was both of us got 4 free dice to try to get to Greece here. And at first we rolled to see who would go first, because you can't just roll as fast as you can, see who gets Greece, right? So Rankarkus won that roll. So the Central Powers got to go first. He rolled a dice, then I rolled a dice, then him, then me, then him, then me. And at the end of our 4, we're both 1 short. So you can bet that we will both be trying to get Greece now. We only need to roll to hit the dice once in order to get that. And these guys have got a couple of ships here. They've got an artillery. They've got 2 dudes. Actually, they got a dude down here as well. So 3 dudes and artillery. That's a big score there. The Allies have also been encroaching down here. Like the Germans had come up and taken this out. They'd come up from there. But now these guys have started to come down here because the last turn the French managed to influence Portugal. So there's a lot of Portuguese territories, but only one of them, I believe, is worth anything, and that's this one here. I could be wrong. There might be one more that was worth $1, but lots of territories, having to use lots of roundels, and but for naught, you know, like there's just not they're just not worth anything. They're islands, or you know, like small countries in Africa or something. But the war is going on over Spain, that's for sure. Surprisingly, he hasn't gone after Gibraltar. He probably could have saved his navy out here and locked mine in there if he had come down here earlier, because he's 2 spaces away, right? Because all I have there is just the one militia, and he missed that one. I kind of pointed it out on the last turn. But I don't know if it's maybe too late for that, because he's already lost his Atlantic fleet now. The only boats he's got in the water now are this one here, a torpedo boat destroyer. There's a transport up there for Germany, and these 2 boats down here. That's all the boats he has on the entire board here right now. But of course, you see the white boats, like there's some there, there's some over there, up in Sweden there. Those are still up for grabs for whoever influences those countries. And plus, he can always build some if he wants. But really, this game is mostly a ground war. You don't have a lot of money to spend on ships, or you shouldn't anyway. Like you could spend as much as you want on ships, but it'd be like playing the World War II games. And having Russia build navy, you know what I mean? It's just not a good idea. World War I was mostly a ground war. A lot of trench warfare, a lot of really dirty fighting, you know what I mean? And that's why I did all that wash on my units here. I wanted to make it look dirty, right? And so like you see that there, this guy, like it looked a lot prettier before I did the wash on there to make them dirty. So that's the kind of war this is. If you spend a lot on boats, then you're not going to be very successful, I don't think. And I'm just looking over there. There's the German build. He put together the German build, and you see again lots of money, no boats. Not surprising. He did good though. Like he took out the British Navy over there. If he would have just got those transports, you know, then he would have been doing awesome, right? But he just couldn't get that last boat and hang on to his own. Otherwise, he would have scored 4 transports out of that one hit. But I was pretty excited. I know he wasn't. Anyway, having fun here. We're definitely not going to get to be finished this game. I know that, because we're only going to play till today. We're going to the lake tomorrow. It's going to be hot and sunny, and we're going to head out to the lake and do some boating and everything. But what I'll do is I'll publish this video before, maybe tonight or tomorrow morning, before I go to the lake anyway. And you can enter the contest for the Camels and the coasters, giving away World War I coasters, courtesy of Doug at Historical Board Gaming. But what I'm going to do though, I'm not going to tear this board down. I think I'm going to leave it set up, and then after Rank Carcass goes home, then I'll just play it out myself. You know what I mean? I've got all summer. I've had some bad luck with my health, and so I'm going to be off for the rest of the summer. And I've got lots of time to finish this game. So I'm going to do that and try to make some notes and everything, and see how I can help to contribute to make this a better game. Anyway, that's all I got for you right now. I'll just move the camera around a little bit more. You see Germany's almost got all of South America now, right? There's a couple more things up there that are worth money that they can take out, these ones here, without having to attack anybody, I mean. So, you know, that's they got lots of money. It's just that they got lots of guys to fight, right? So I'll just show you here for a second. These are the starting incomes. So it's Germany, Austria, and Ottoman against Britain, France, Russia, USA, Italy, Japan. So, you know, like they're grossly outnumbered there, right? And it's tough. This is what we've done for random events so far. There's a little summary for the trench warfare that you do in this game. And here's the units that we're using. Let's go down slowly there so you can see what we're doing here. Yeah, we put a question mark beside the camels because that was kind of an afterthought. Doug got those just when we were getting to Tulsa there and said, hey, let's play with camels. So, okay, you know, and we didn't really make up any rules for them or anything. So we're trying to make up some rules here, and other people will try to make them up too, and we'll get there. So, that's all I got for you right now. Take care, everyone. I'll talk to you after the next turn. Okay, so we have reached 1916, and the Russians are a hurting unit. It looked even worse before the Russian turn, but they only get $12 right now, and Austria has got more money now because they've managed to take over a few neutrals down there, right? Like they rolled for Greece, and they've rolled for some other ones, and they managed to get them in the last couple of turns, so their income has increased. They're at $14, but that, when you combine with the German income, puts the Russians at a severe disadvantage there. Although one thing the Russians did do very, very early in the game, the Germans managed to take Afghanistan, influence them, and then spill across the border here. And the Russians ran down there to head them off. And this 2 turns ago, they took one of them off, and then this turn they took the other one off. So that's eliminated that threat. And there's just this threat from the Ottomans down here for the back door for the Russians. But yeah, the Russians are hurting. And sometime in 1917, I got to read the rules before we get there, but that's going to be a tough time because that's when the Russians will be exiting the game. And hopefully the Americans will be entering it not long afterwards. But I don't know, like the rules are in the very early stages, as I've said, and it's hard to see the Americans getting into this game, really, as far as being a battle force. Like, really, what they're doing so far in this game is just being a banker. And, you know, like, that's not something that I would like to do. I wouldn't want to play the American player if I was together with a bunch of people playing this game, because I like to play these games because I like to do battle, you know what I mean? Whereas they're not doing battle, they're just playing Monopoly, you know, lending money and stuff, selling arms, and that's not nearly as much fun, I don't think. But anyway, really interesting battle going on down here in Spain. The Germans had influenced that one, and then so now we've got 3 different nations in Spain duking it out. The French and the British are there with them, and it kind of looks like the Spanish Civil War from 1936 right now. So that's a going concern down there. The French, just this last turn, they finally had more units here than the Germans did, and so you can see what the Germans have left here. Like they had 7 dudes and 7 artillery. So these guys, on their first strike with all their artillery, they went with all 3 places here. They managed to get 5 first strike hits, which took out a lot of the dudes. So, and they only hit twice. So in the end, I think these guys hit 6 times, and these guys only hit twice. So that kind of eased the threat of the Germans on this side of the board for now. And like there's still these guys for the French and these guys for the British, but there's a lot less threat here than there was a couple of turns ago when the Germans had a big stack here, a big stack here, a big stack here. You know, like they slowly but surely managed to take that down. But I mean, that's come at a cost too, because the British have spent just about all their money up here or in Spain, and for that they lost the Suez Canal down there, which is a 5 IPP penalty for them, right? So it did come at a cost. There's again still not much Navy. There's this boat here and 2 boats down there for the Germans, and I think that's all the boats they have on the board. The Allies still have a lot of boats in the water. Although they, like they've lost some for sure. Big battles and everything. That's how the German Navy was lost. But they had a lot more to start with, right? Not much has changed down in South America because the Germans had to get through the jungle down there first. Now that they've reached the jungle, they'll be able to bust through there and take a couple of places up there, and that'll give them some more money. And then I don't know if he's going to keep going up Latin America there into Mexico or not. We'll see. Not many places left to influence that are worth influencing. Like Sweden for sure. You look at Sweden here. They've got 3 boats here. And they've got just one dude. But I mean, these 3 boats, this would really be a big boost to the Germans if they could influence this. And then they've got a dreadnought that they only need to spend $5 more on, but they haven't because they don't want to put it in the water and then have it taken out. And also Denmark wouldn't be bad, but nobody's been trying to get Denmark. He's been staying away from Denmark because the Allies, if they wanted to go through the strait, would have to take out Denmark. They'd have to pay 10 IPP just to assault Denmark, right? And the Germans have been content just to leave this neutral because that provides that extra barrier there for them. But once these guys are able to influence this, and they're already one down the road to doing that, they just need a couple of more influence roles to get it. Then that's going to open this up for them, and then the Germans might be in trouble, depending on what happens before then, right? Like that's still a few turns away. The Italians tried to bust out of Italy down there. Let me just find a good place to put this down. But it's tough. It's really, really tough down here in the southern, like just north of the Mediterranean. Down in southern Europe, down here is all mountains. And so the defenders got a huge advantage. Like I went up there with all these units plus, I think one more. I think I lost one. I rolled them all and didn't get a hit because you're -1 in the mountains, right? So it's tough. Actually, I put a couple of units on there too. I bought some. But it's tough to break out of here. So he's got a stack here. And he didn't want to come at me because this is also a mountain border. Even though it doesn't look like mountains down in here, it's still a mountain border, right? And we're both entrenched as well. So you only get one shot at him. And when you're fighting in mountains, you're much better to defend rather than attack. So it's been slow going, and that's probably the way it'll be. Like Italy will probably be hemmed in there. The Austro-Hungarians don't seem too interested in breaking through in Italy there. So that's interesting, but that could change. Like you get one roll here where one guy gets diced, and that happens in a game. Like these guys get 5 hits and these guys get no hits. Well, then all of a sudden it's hit their turn. Well, now maybe it's worth taking a shot at them, right? And even then, like it's really tough to recover when you're only making $12, right? The Allies are really intent. Let me just go down to the other side of the board there. On the way down, I'll just stop here. I haven't talked about this much. So nothing's happening here. Like nothing happens with China until they're brought into the war. Like they got to be attacked. Something else could happen, but I think for the most part it's when Japan attacks them. So all Japan's doing is just buying and buying and buying and buying. They get $15 every turn, so they're buying more and more transports, more and more dudes. Plus they can put dudes right on over here, right? Like I don't even need to buy any more transports. I could just put a shit ton of dudes over here, right? So actually I should be ferrying them across right now over to that spot too. That would be a good idea. Then I don't have to amphibiously assault with them. Thanks for reminding me, guys. So that's what I'm gonna do. I should start buying artillery over there too. Anyway, down here, the Ottoman Empire is not having a bad game so far. There's lots that they can do in this game. You see all these territories down in Arabia here. Like it makes it a lot more interesting when it's not just one huge territory, Saudi Arabia, right? Like there's a whole bunch of different stuff. And if you get yourself a camel or two, then their first strike in the desert. So that's cool. But they've taken this out. I mean, that's been a huge a huge thing. So when they take that $5 off of the British, like the British should have collected 45 this turn, they only managed to collect 40. If that's all the Ottoman Empire does, they're doing a good job. You know, holding on to their money plus some, keep taking out some of the Russian money, and taking out the British money as well, because that would be $6, right? $1 down for the British there, and $1 up for the Ottomans on that, and then also the British losing that money. But the British though, they're everywhere I've got a dude, like a little silhouette of a dude on here, I'm starting to place them down there. It's too bad that I don't have a thing where I can place actual units, right? Like armored cars or artillery or anything like that. But as you can see over here, I'm heading back up to Great Britain. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a bunch of stuff and bring it down, because it's hard to fight with just infantry, right? You kind of need more than that. And so I'm going to go up there and get a couple of transports worth of you know, I'll bring dudes too, because you have to bring dudes with your artillery. But I'll try to do that, and even if I can get 3 or 4 artillery down there, then I can actually do something. You know what I mean? It's not just a matter of, boy, I wish I could have that back. You know. So anyway, that's where we're sitting right now. I think we were playing the Americans wrong. We were just reading the Americans there. And it says at a certain point in income, they can start buying ships, and I've been buying ships for hours, you know, like, so, oops, you know, but anyway, like, I'm not satisfied with the rules regarding the Americans anyway, and I don't think they're going to make it into this war, to be honest with you. So, but although the last thing that happened there, like I was telling you earlier, that there's the random event, the one random event that we just rolled to start this turn, it's +8 for the U.S. income, +4 infantry. So that's the only way that they boosted their income, other than rolling a D6. 1 D6 every turn. Like, it's easy to roll a 1 or a 2, right? I mean, you're never going to get to 55 that you need to be at in order to get into this game, right? Like, they're still only at 29 with that +8 there. Anyway, that's the way it looks here at the war room. We'll probably play another turn or two. We're expecting Gargantua to show up any minute now. Haven't seen him since Toronto, so that'll be nice to see him again. I talked to him a bunch of times on the phone, but haven't seen him since Toronto at the Grasshopper tournament, so looking forward to him getting here. I'll talk to you later. Okay, so we're going to call this game now, and I'm going to call this the end of the video, but after we come back from the lake, like if we've got some time, we might play a turn or two before Rank Carcass has to drive home to Edmonton. But otherwise, I'm just going to play the rest of this game at my leisure, and I will make videos too as I go along. But this first video will be the end of it tonight. But don't forget about the prize that we talked about earlier in the video. So if you're just tuning in now, then you might want to rewind and find out what that prize is. We had Gargantua showed up here. He spent a couple hours here and let him play the Russians for a turn. And he rolled 5 dice, all 12s. Like, 12s are bad, you gotta roll low, right? It's kind of funny. And also, we had a camel fight. He was really excited about that. So a couple more camels went at it here. They squared off anyway, and then this guy here, this is pre-Dreadnought. He did his landing shot and killed the Ottoman camel. They managed to win the battle, but they lost their camel. So these guys backed off with their camel and their dude. Now the British can go in there. The Italians were just going to try to soften them up a little bit for the British, because you never know if you're going to get it or not with the limited amount of turns that combat rounds that you get, right? Like, I'd probably only get 3 rounds of combat, and I'd probably get it, but you never know though, because your dudes are only rolling at 2, right? So that's no guarantee. But yeah, that was fun, and we had fun playing the game. And we're not surprised that there's a lot of things that need to be addressed with the game, because it's really not even quite a game yet. It's just an idea, right? And things that are jotted down and stuff. And a lot of them is just copy and pasted from the 36 rules, because the game mechanics are quite similar between this game and the 1936 game. I think the other ones are, like they're the later games too. The game mechanics are going to be quite similar. Things like Lend-Lease and stuff like that, right? Amphibious assault, things like that. They're going to be very similar from game to game, so that there's some continuity throughout the games, right? But this one was just an idea, and their main focus is on 36, and so it's not surprising that that this game was needs a lot of work, right? But that's one of the reasons that we were playing it, and one of the reasons that Doug sent this map home with me and with the other guys that were there. I'm not sure if Misha got a map. You know who Misha is from Facebook there. But also Bob, he took a map home. I think one or maybe even both of the guys from Europe took a map home. And we're all going to work on it when we can, right? And so this was my first attempt at working on it. I've been doing a lot of work in preparing for it, painting the pieces and collecting the pieces and everything. I didn't want to just use my World War II pieces for this game. I wanted to make it special, right? Like, because I enjoy this kind of thing. If you're subscribed to my channel, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I take great pleasure in sticking magnets to things and painting units and collecting all kinds of stuff that people seem to want to get after I've found it on the internet, and they're, hey, where'd you get that? And so I'll tell them and everything. I'll just keep moving the camera around as I'm talking here. Not a lot happened in this round. We were actually busy talking this whole round. Last round, our Gargantua was here, and him and Rank Carcass met each other for the first time. If you don't know who I'm talking about, he's a guy from Vancouver. He's one of the top players in the world. He plays in the league, in the AAA leagues, and he's one of the top players in that league. And Sireblood and I played at the Invitational, the Grasshopper Invitational in Toronto, and we're not bad players, right? But him and his partner, they would just wipe the floor with us. They beat us 7-0, and that's only because we quit. It could have been worse, but we were so tired after 3 long days of playing, and it was really hot there in Toronto. Like, there was a heat wave going through there, an unusual heat wave for that time of year. So we just wanted it to end. But yeah, he's a really good player. So it was neat seeing him. He came up to visit family up here, so he just came over for a visit. So what's happened? Not much. Like, the Russians are starting to. You're starting to see they're getting pushed back here, right? But it's only going to get so far until the Russian Revolution comes around, and it's probably going to happen. Like, I'm not sure. I didn't read the rules. I'm kind of waiting. Okay, when I get to that point, then I'll read about it, and then I'll play it, right? But there's something some things you have to do, rolling and things like that, and seeing if there's a revolution or not. But I assume there's going to be, because they're not doing so well, right? And I know there's a better chance of having that revolution if you're not doing very well. But the French here, they took another shot at the Germans here. They punched them again. Went after their strongest point there. So you can see these guys have only got 3 infantry left and 6 artillery. They had quite a bit more than that to begin with. So the French are doing very well and holding their own. Here is the first tanks in the game. There's 2 tanks on London. So the British get to build tanks this past turn, and in 2 turns from now, actually not this turn coming up, but the one after, then everybody else can start building their tanks. That's according to us. That's our rules. That's not the rules of the game. The rules of the game are you have to develop them with tech, right? But we didn't want to do that. We were going to have our hands full just learning how to play this game without the 18 different techs that are in the game, or in the rule book anyway. The Ottoman Empire were doing pretty good. Like, they've managed to take $10 off the British now. That's probably it though. Like, Britain's probably got a handle on them now. But Britain did have to help out with Paris there. Otherwise, Paris would have fell, and that's disastrous. What happens if you lose your capital in this game is you lose half of your money to the person taking the capital from you, and then the other half of your money goes to the bank. So that would have been devastating if that would have happened, because then, of course, not only does Germany get a big pile of money, but also France has a turn where they don't buy anything, right? And so when that happens, it's quite possible you never get your capital back. And so then, it's they've got the upper hand then. These guys here, again, they still haven't started the war with China yet. They're just basically ferrying a whole bunch of guys across here, right? And they've got some artillery they're going to start moving across. Like, there's no hurry for them, right? China can't do anything. They're not allowed to go anywhere or do anything. It seems to me like when we played, we spent all our time over here. Like, I sat over here and he sat over there, right? Like, the only time I came over here just to do what I just showed you there, put a couple of guys on, right? It seems like this is a pretty big waste of space, as you might imagine in a World War I game. There really wasn't a lot happening in the Pacific. Like, you could have cut the board off right here, if you wanted to, and that would have sufficed. Or if you wanted to have Japan and China in there, you could also cut the board off right here, like at the outside of Australia and Japan, because there's really not anything going to happen over here either. There's a scenario in which America could fight with Japan, but if I was America, I would not be worried about Japan. I would be worried about Europe over here, right? And so I don't think I would waste my time fighting Japan over there. Just leave them alone, right? But in this game, they're on the same side, or probably. Like, the Americans aren't really on anybody's side right now, and they're able to lend anybody money that they want. But some of the things, like, one of the things that I'm missing in this game that is in the 36 game, and it is so brilliant in the global war game, is that how you ramp up for war. Like in the 36 game, like if somebody builds a capital ship, then your income goes up 3. Or if somebody attacks this guy, then your income goes up by a D12. You know what I mean? If you've ever watched the Global War, played Global War 36, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's not really in this game, and that's a shame. Like, the Americans, I don't see how they're ever going to get to their wartime income before this game is over, right? And so, like, here's an example. The Germans have Mexico, right? All they got to do is just walk into Texas there, and the Americans aren't alarmed about that. Like, you would think that would create some tension for them, and that they would a lot more money into their wartime economy, right? So these are the kind of things that I'm going to suggest, is that there's a path for the Americans to get to war. Not where they can get there in 1916 or 17, because that's too soon, but at least a path where it's not the very last turn of the game and, okay, I'm allowed to cross the Atlantic, okay, the game's over. Like, that's not going to be very much fun for the person who is playing the American, especially if you're got a lot of people playing this game. You're not just like 2 guys like we were, but you got a lot of people, so it's just one guy who's just playing America. You're basically being the banker for everybody, and that's it. And then, okay, finally I get to cross the water, and then, okay, game over. Thanks for coming over, everybody. Like, I do not want to be the American player in this game. So there could be some more thought put into that, but at the same time, you can't make it unrealistic, right? Like, America didn't enter the war until very late. So, but they did get over there, right? Like, they did enter in time to get in on the fighting and stuff, and so that should be reflected as well somehow. And like I said, I'm really missing that mechanic where they ramp up to war. All the other nations in this game are basically at war, except for, like, Italy's still neutral, and the Ottoman Empire, they don't enter until the second turn. And then there's China, of course. They're like Britain chooses either Japan or China, and that's who is their, like, that's who is on their side, right? And so with me choosing Japan, then China has done nothing. We've placed nothing for them. They've moved nothing. Like nobody, they're a neutral, and they're a neutral that really can't be influenced except by America later in the game. But I don't even know if they can do that since we took Japan on our side. You know, I'm not even sure. So a lot more reading I think that I need to do, and a lot more thought by the whole team in putting this game together and making it not just realistic but also playable. You know, like if it's too complicated, if you need to have all kinds of charts and everything just to get through a round, then it's probably a little too complicated. And while it might be technically challenging, and that can be good, it's also not very fun, right? And so you when you play a game, you want it to also be fun. You want to have some fun while you're doing it, right? And so keeping it simple and yet still pretty technical, that would be my goal, right? Trying to make it fairly realistic and make it a game as well. So anyway, thanks for joining me here. Feel free to enter that contest, and I will finish this game throughout the summer, but this will be the end of this video, and my buddy Rank and I, we're going to the lake tomorrow. We're going to troll for mermaids. Okay, I'm going to troll for mermaids. He's married. Anyway, take care everyone. General Hand Grenade out.